New Year's Eve 2015. What happened after the mass molestation of women in Cologne on that night by predominantly Muslim migrants, asylum seekers? The mayor of Cologne came out after, Henrietta Recker, and told women in the aftermath of the mass molestation to just keep them at arm's length. Remember that. She was asked by a journalist how women could protect themselves against sexual assault while they were literally being surrounded by gangs of 20, 30 men and groped, in some cases raped. She said, quote, "There's always the possibility of keeping a certain distance of more than an arm's length." That is to say, make sure you don't look to be too close to people who are not known to you. So the solution to not being raped is to just keep the rapist at arm's length, and that's going to work fine.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
We are back on the Alex Jones Show Live. Let's get into more news out of Europe right now. This is up on Infowars.com. German Minister on Migrant Knife Crime. Don't let people get close to you. Oh, what a solution. Here's how you don't get stabbed. Just avoid people who want to stab you. Well, you don't really see them coming. You don't really see them coming, do you? That's kind of how it happens. The German minister has caused controversy after he reacted to reports of increased knife crime amongst migrants by telling German citizens to not, this is a quote, let people get close to you. Knife crime is surging in Germany, and I go through the stats in this article. It's gone up 12,000% in the last 10 years. And over the last 4-5 years, since 2013, it's jumped 600%, which, of course, as we know, has nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that Angela Merkel and Germany have imported around 2 million, largely Muslim migrants, since 2015. There's no connection whatsoever, despite a German Federal Ministry for Family Affairs study which revealed that there was a correlation between a surge in violent crime and the arrival of migrants, with migrants being overrepresented in crime statistics. So Germany, like most other European countries after cultural enrichment, is experiencing a surge in violent crime, in gang crime as well in some cases. And now the way of dealing with that is not to reconsider whether inviting people in from these dangerous areas who tend to commit more crimes and are overrepresented in crime stats, not to reconsider that policy, but to just tell people to avoid stabbers and murderers. Just avoid them. Well, we're doing that already. Who isn't avoiding being murdered? I mean, God forbid. So this is Herbert Ruhl. He's the Minister of the Interior of North Rhine-Westphalia. He's a member of Angela Merkel's CDU party, so that's the main governing party, despite the fact that it's basically been derailed since the last election. But he came out in this video in German, and the translation's in the article, where he just called for Germans. He said, this is the solution to migrant knife crime. You have to be more sensitive towards it. So you have to change your behavior. The problem's with you, not with the criminal committing the crime. He said, quote, citizens will just have to be more sensitive, adding you don't necessarily have to let people get close to you. Now, what does this remind you of? Well, Cologne, New Year's Eve 2015. What happened after the mass molestation of women in Cologne on that night by predominantly Muslim migrants, asylum seekers? The mayor of Cologne came out after, Henrietta Recker, and told women in the aftermath of the mass molestation to just keep them at arm's length. Remember that. She was asked by a journalist how women could protect themselves against sexual assault while they were literally being surrounded by gangs of 20, 30 men and groped, in some cases raped. She said, quote, there's always the possibility of keeping a certain distance of more than an arm's length. That is to say, make sure you don't look to be too close to people who are not known to you. So the solution to not being raped is to just keep the rapist at arm's length, and that's going to work fine. Yeah, I mean, you don't need pepper spray. You don't need to reassess the policy of importing rapists. No, just keep them at arm's length. And in fact, there was a video released by police in Finland. We played this way back, probably a couple of years ago now, where they give women advice on how not to get raped. And it's literally this woman using the force, and outstretching her hands to repel the rapist, the would-be attacker, with some kind of invisible force field, like she's using the force to shoo him away. They actually put that in a police video telling women how not to get raped. I mean, this is the level of meme. This is the memeness of Europe right now. that we've got people coming out and saying, well, you don't want to get stabbed. You've got a higher risk of getting stabbed. Just avoid being stabbed. Like, what? What does that even mean? Absolutely incredible. But there is hope in Italy, which brings me to my next story. Eurosceptic, Five Star, and Lega are now the most popular parties in Italy. Now, of course, they came out on top during the recent Italian elections. Now, the wave of anti-establishment Eurosceptic feeling in Italy felt through the election campaign and demonstrated by the result has carried on, with the latest poll showing Five Star and Lega, which are the two anti-EU populist parties, as the most popular parties in the country. For the first time, anti-mass migration Lega have overtaken the lefty PD, which was the government before the election, meaning that Italy's two most popular parties now comprise of rising political outsiders. As a combination, they now collectively poll 53%. So they're still working out the negotiations for the coalition government there in Italy, but whatever makeup it has, it's going to be a populist composition of parties. And now those parties are the most popular in Italy. So Italy is a beacon for the rest of Europe. It's a beacon for Sweden, which has its election coming up in September later this year. Of course, another country that has massive problems with immigration, which is why those populist parties in Italy won, mainly because of sentiment based around immigration and the migrant crisis. Breitbart reports only 22% of Britons want to stop Brexit. Almost 60% of Brits think the government should respect the referendum and get on with delivering Brexit. In a new poll by BMG for Change Britain, respondents were asked if they agreed that the government should get on with implementing the result of the referendum to take Britain out of the EU, and in doing so, take back control of borders, laws, money, and trade. Now, 57% agreed that that should happen, and less than a quarter, just 22%, disagree with the statement according to the results. So, again, this whole narrative that we've had since Brexit, the very months after Brexit and still today, is that everyone regrets voting for Brexit. No, complete nonsense. Whenever they do the polls, did you regret voting for Brexit? It's always a tiny, tiny percentage in the single digits. Now, even with the backlash to it, the people who basically don't support democracy, they want a second referendum, even amongst those people, only 22% as the entire country want to stop Brexit. So, again, the narrative that it was a huge mistake and that everybody regretted it, proven completely false once again by actual polls. Now, earlier this week on the Alex Jones Show, we had Count Dankula. He, of course, faces up to a year in prison for a joke video which he made to mock Nazis. Like, he turned his dog into the worst thing imaginable, which was a Nazi, which suggests that he hates Nazis too, to insult his girlfriend, to make a joke about his girlfriend because she loves the dog too much. You've seen the video, you've seen the aftermath, you've seen the trial. Now he faces up to a year in prison. Now, this is all happening. Meanwhile, police in Britain, in some cases, in some areas, are taking days to respond to emergency calls. This is out of Breitbart again. Police forces taking days to respond to 999 calls, while hate crime declared a priority. As forces in Britain declare tackling so-called hate crime a priority, the police watchdog has released a report revealing officers are taking days to respond to emergency calls. So in one area of the UK, between 20% and 50% of reports requiring police to send a unit within 24 hours missed the target. So they couldn't even get there within 24 hours after an emergency call. This isn't a non-emergency situation. With thousands of 999 calls, assessors requiring action within an hour, police took hours or in some cases several days to respond. Oh, but if you send a mean tweet, they'll be there pronto. And in fact, in the case of Count Dankula, they tipped off the media, had the media waiting outside his house to photograph him. That was all a very well-organized operation, wasn't it? But if you've got an emergency, which isn't, oh, somebody hurt my feelings, it could take days. Here's another headline. Police Scotland create hate crime files on over 900 young teens in 1 year. They've declared hate crime a priority. In fact, I was sent a tweet today, or a DM on Twitter, where somebody's son went on Snapchat and sent their friend an insult, a homophobic insult. It wasn't even that mean. It was mild, calling somebody gay in the context of an insult. The police investigated it, and the guy was punished. And now his life is ruined. They've got these WhatsApp messages of these young kids that are being made public. Again, it's edgy humor. They're insulting each other as boys, as young men do. But now, because of an insult, a homophobic insult, that gets investigated. We've had instances of playground insults with children 11 years and younger. Someone insults someone else on the playground, the police are called. Meanwhile, violent crime's going up. It's going up in London. It's going up in Scotland too. We've got vastly understaffed police forces. We've got a lack of resources and money for police forces. Yet they're investigating Snapchat insults. Snapchat insults, and in some cases they can't respond to 999 calls for days. What the hell is happening in the United Kingdom? This has really come to the boil over the past 2 weeks or so. We also have Scottish police slammed for threatening to track down anonymous Twitter users after Nazi pug case. So they're even on top of all the absurdity, all the ridiculousness, they're still continuing the same policies. Meanwhile, the ISIS jihadists are flooding back into the country. The police can't even monitor them. Absolutely ludicrous. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. War Room with Owen Schroyer is coming up. Don't go away.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the Resistance.
It's the claim that the August protest was some sort of left-wing plot. Who, you might ask, would say something so offensive? An elected representative who's serving right now in the U.S. Congress.
And look at the background. George Soros is one of those people that actually helps, back these individuals. Who is he?
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
Was it difficult?
Not at all.
Do you think George Soros funded the neo-Nazis who marched in Charlottesville?
Wouldn't it be interesting to find out?
These conspiracy theories were first spread by radio talk show host Alex Jones.
Is this lost on anyone? George Soros is a famous Nazi collaborator.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
It's been sold out for months, and now it's back. It's Myco ZX Plus. Lower price, more ingredients, because we scaled up, signed a year contract with an even bigger organic manufacturer and producer. Scalability. But now we're able to go at 50% off to $27 instead of $39, 50% off, because there's a lot of product and a lot of ingredient in Myco ZX. Now, it's the other side of the equation. Everybody thinks about probiotics and how great they are for your gut because of toxins in the environment, pesticides, herbicides, but more importantly than bad bacteria that probiotics help displace, yeast mold creates slime walls. And once the candida and the yeast and the mold and all that get in there, it causes all sorts of serious issues. Well, this has got a bunch of concentrated herbs in it and compounds known to destroy that slime wall. Don't wait to start detoxifying your body until it's too late. Pick up a bottle of the new and improved Myco ZX Plus now from the InfoWars store.